Welcome to the Black Sparrow Media Internet Broadcast Network.
You are listening to Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a podcast about Linux, open source, and amateur radio, for everyone. Now here are your hosts, Cheryl, W5MOO, Russ, K5TUX, and Bill, NE4RD.
Well, hello everybody and welcome. You have tuned in to episode number 598 of Linux in the Ham Shack, the most terrific amateur radio podcast on the internet. We're getting dangerously close to number 600, and who knows what will happen on that episode. But in the meantime, we have a short topics episode for tonight, for number 598. But before we get into our topics for the evening, we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves. For the on assignment, Cheryl, W5MOO. I'm Russ, K5TUX.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD.
All right, so we have topics for tonight. We have amateur radio and Linux and open source topics, and one topic that is ostensibly a mix of the two, but probably not really. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into it, and we'll start with amateur radio topics for tonight. And the first one is Zombie Satellite EFS-1, no longer undead. Also no longer dead, so I guess that makes it a lot. Anyway, in 1965, the U.S. Air Force and the Lincoln Laboratory at MIT launched two Lincoln experimental satellites, LESs, into orbit around the Earth, LES-1 and LES-2. These were the first super high-frequency satellites using the X-band of the electromagnetic spectrum. LES-1, launched from Cape Canaveral on the February 11th, 1965, accomplished only a few of its objectives, quote-unquote, NASA said. I think I butchered that, but I'm going to leave it. Also quoting, apparently because of miswiring of the ordnance circuitry, the satellite never left circular orbit and ceased transmitting in 1967. LES-1 continued in its orbit around the Earth for nearly half a century, another piece of space junk. But in 2013, an amateur radio astronomer in Cornwall, UK, picked up a signal that could only be from LES-1. It had become what is known as a zombie satellite, satellites that often mysteriously become active once more. Quoting Navid Yazdani, LES-1 is one of the oldest satellites in space and part of Lincoln Laboratory's legacy in SATCOM, so to see it still transmitting after all these years is remarkable. And he is the leader of the laboratory's Advanced SATCOM Systems and Operations Group. So what caused this satellite to go zombie mode? Well, no one is sure. Though we don't know for certain why this zombie life quoting one possibility is that LES-1 experienced an electrical short caused by its batteries or circuitry degrading over time, allowing power from its solar cells to directly reach the transmitter. The Lincoln Laboratory. Man, I guess you can take the show from here because apparently I'm experiencing some sort of brain damage. But anyway, the Lincoln Laboratory explained. The satellite remains in orbit and operational to this day. Although what it is doing or what it is useful for, I am not sure. It was not covered in the article. But that article came from a source that I like a lot. We just don't get a lot of amateur radio topics, and this was only tangentially amateur radio related anyway. But this came from IFL Science. And if you don't know what IFL stands for, you'll just have to look it up. Because I don't have the badger handy. So
I see what you did. You got like a zombie thing going, so you're trying to Halloween theme the show, huh?
Sure, that's exactly why that showed up in there. Yeah,
it was lack of topics, right?
Hard. Yeah, exactly. So, all right, and obviously we're doing an obit. Things are light, so I guess I'll have you do.
Yeah. Great, thanks. I love doing these. This is a Ed Hare, W1RFI, a longtime ARRL lab engineer, has passed away. Edward F. Hare Jr., W1 RFI, who spent decades as an employee of the ARRL laboratory, has become a silent key. Hare was first licensed as a teenager in 1963 as Kilo November 1 Charlie Victor, later Kilo Alpha 1 Charlie Victor, and was an active ham throughout his life. He was an avid QRP operator, earning his work state certificate with 250 milliwatts on CW. In his professional life, he was an accomplished product test engineer and a leading expert on radio frequency interference, or RFI. After an interesting career in product testing, he came to work for ARRL in 1986. During his tenure, Hare led the technical aspects of many important advocacy efforts taken on by the ARRL lab, including successful fight against broadband over power line, that's BPL, and Hare's extensive technical studies and solid factual data effectively supported the ARRL's Court of Appeals submissions against the Federal Communications Commission, thus contributing substantially to the ARRL's victory and causing the FCC's flawed BPL rules to be remanded to the FCC. Hare was a prolific author about RFI, from articles for QST and the ARRL Handbook to articles about practical aspects of electromagnetic compatibility, EMC, appeared in professional trade journals. He was also one of the editors and authors of the ARRL RFI book and was the author of the ARRL's book on RF exposure, entitled RF Exposure in You. Many radio clubs may recall Hare's popular Stump the Speaker feature that he held after giving presentations. Hare would allow the audience to try and stump him with questions and trivia. It was rarely successful. He retired from the ARRL as laboratory manager in 2023, but continued to serve in the lab as a volunteer until the time of his passing. Hare was a member of the ARRL Diamond Club and the A1 Operators Club. The ARRL Board of Directors bestowed the ARRL Merit Award on Hare in 2008 for his work on BPL, an honor that before Hare was last awarded in 1976 and has not been given since. And this came to us from the ARRL.
Not surprisingly. So
yeah, considering they got mentioned a few thousand times. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and he also worked for them. So,
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
That was a very nice write-up. Yeah.
It was a very nice write-up, and he did have a lot to do with the amateur radio community, especially as regards radio frequency interference, and obviously that is why his call sign is what it was. But, yeah, very good. He will be missed, I'm sure. We're going back to space again, so I can space out while I read. So, hams are neat, and yeah, this is a timed story. So yeah, we're all over doing the stuff we don't actually do. Come on, amateur radio, have some stuff for us to talk about. I looked at like other podcast stories as well, and they're not much better. So yeah. Hams are needed to track NASA's moon mission. NASA is seeking volunteers to passively track the 2026 Artemis II Orion spacecraft as the crewed missions travel to the moon and back to Earth. That's crewed, C-R-E-W-E-D, not C-R-U-D-E. The Artemis II test flight will send NASA astronauts Reed Weissman, KF-5LKT, Victor Glover, KI-5BKC, and Christina Koch, along with the Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen, KF-5LKU. Why does he have an American call sign? That's interesting. I didn't even notice that. On an approximately 10-day mission around the moon, targeted for no later than April 2026, the mission will rely on NASA's Near Space Network and Deep Space Network for primary communications and tracking support throughout its launch, orbit, and reentry. However, with a growing focus on commercialization, NASA wants to further understand industry's tracking capabilities. This collaboration opportunity builds upon a previous request released by NASA's Space Communication and Navigation Program, or SCAN, during the Artemis I mission in 2022. 10 volunteers successfully tracked the uncrewed Orion spacecraft on its journey thousands of miles beyond the moon and back. If you're interested in volunteering for next year's event, all the information can be found on sam.gov, Sierra Alpha Mike. The response deadline is October 27, 2025, so we are going to get this out in time at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So I put in an editor's note, but then found out that the editor's note is invalid, so I will not read it. This also came from the ARRL, and the link to where you can sign up if you so desire will be in the show notes. So there we go. Lots of spacey news
Yeah, how about that? Well, now we're on to open source. And here's a topic that came up the other day. Flatpak doesn't work in Ubuntu 25.10. And we haven't even talked about Ubuntu 25.10. So just in case you didn't know, Questing Quokka is out and in the wild 25.10. This is a while Flatpak itself can be installed using apt. Trying to install Flatpaks with Flatpak from the command line throws a could not unmount revoke fs fuse file system error, followed by a child process exited with code 1. For those who've installed the latest Ubuntu Quokka, I guess that's how you say it, Quokka, and wanted to kit it out with their favorite software from FlatHub, it is a frustrating road bump. According to the bug report on Launchpad, the AppArmor profile for fuser mount 3 lacks the privileges it needs to work properly in Ubuntu 25.10. fuser mount 3 is a tool that Flatpak relies on to mount and unmount file systems. Without the right permissions, the installation fails. Worse still, the bug affects everyone running Ubuntu 25.10, whether that's an upgrade from 25.04 or a spick and span install. There is a workaround already out in the wild. This is basically just disabling the AppArmor profile for fuser mount 3. That's one option. And then there's also an update for AppArmor in the alpha stage that's available in the repos that you can update to as well. And that will fix it. And this is from OMG Ubuntu. And I just kind of saw this story and I was like, it definitely seemed like, was it an accident? Was it purposeful? Considering Ubuntu and Canonical is, Snap. That's their particular package thing that was not affected by this. I just find it interesting that they can affect something so significant within the ecosystem with a single release like that calls into question whether or not it was an accident or on purpose.
Interesting. At work, we're talking with a certain company named CrowdStrike, and if you don't know the relevance of that compared to this story,
CrowdStrike
news from last year.
yeah, exactly. They'll handle your security.
They sure will. Anyway, what was I going to say? I was going to say something else about Ubuntu and Flatpak. Oh, I was going to say that Elite users will do the smart thing and just disable AppArmor. So,
yeah, no security needed. Just go all out.
If you know what you're doing, you don't need AppArmor. It's very intrusive, and the worst part about AppArmor is when it causes an issue, when it fails, because some particular part of the file system doesn't have permissions because AppArmor isn't either configured properly or configured a little too aggressively for the system you're using. It's very hard to figure out and fix. So I would just say, if you don't need it, don't use it. But
it's definitely an option.
All right. So next on the list, we have a happy 29th birthday to KDE. Who would have known that it was 29 years old? It's the 29th anniversary of KDE. It might not be a nice round number like 25 or 30, but whenever another birthday rolls around for an independent project the size and scope of KDE, powered by the goodwill of its contributors and users, that's really quite something. Nice editorializing. Is that the text as it was written?
Yes, it is.
This year, we're celebrating by kicking off our yearly fundraiser. Let's raise at least 50,000 euros before the end of the year. And this came from KDE because, they're touting their own anniversary and asking for money. So... I have not donated to KDE, and I am a staunch KDE user now. I didn't like it back in the day, but I love it now, and I don't know. Maybe I'd consider throwing them a couple of euro. So, anyway, happy birthday, KDE. And now you've got yourself a nice long story to look at.
Yeah, I can see how you ordered these, right?
No. I mean,
I sprayed them this way, too, so I knew I'd get them both. So, anyway, the next story is something I ran across. I was actually just looking for stories from Reddit, and I came across this project in the open source Reddit, and it just kind of intrigued me. So, take this for what it's worth. This is a realistic radio communication simulator for flight simulators. Okay, double simulators. There you go. It's a Mumble-based modular radio simulation framework that provides realistic radio communications for flight simulators and games with geographic separation, propagation modeling, and authentic radio procedures. This project is called FGC or FGCOM-Mumble. So it's definitely using the Mumble app. It's a sophisticated radio communication simulator that brings realistic radio procedures to flight simulation and games. It's designed for enthusiasts who want authentic radio communication experiences with proper propagation modeling, geographic separation, and realistic audio effects. And yes, both of those sentences are almost identical. And I just copied them both because I'm that kind of guy. Anyway, the key features, let's see, I'll just kind of run through these real quick. So realistic radio simulation does geographic separation. So as I'm going to say it the third time, propagation modeling and everything else. It uses connectivity to OpenStreetMaps, connections to NASA and NOAA for all kinds of data to model any kind of tropospheric ducting and everything else. So it really goes all the way out there on this stuff. The platforms it supports are Flight Gear, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and web browsers. Some of the advanced features it has is ATIS recordings, radio station broadcast, landline intercom support, and RDF detection. It does support WebRTC support. GPU acceleration is available with dynamic scaling, so it can use an intelligent GPU resource management for up to 200 concurrent users for high-performance propagation. So this is on the server side. Let's see here. Real-time data integration, including solar data, lightning data, weather data for accurate propagation modeling. Does DSP stuff. Let's see here. Easy NAC-based 3D radio patterns for all vehicle types. So depending upon which aircraft you're flying in, you might have a different kind of propagation that occurs with the antenna system that would be traditionally installed on that. Let's see what else we have here. Blah blah blah. ATIS, or I said that. Advanced fuzzing, and then some of the new features here, which kind of caught my eye here. This is added in the version 1.3.1. So they have a voice encryption systems now, complete implementation of military-grade voice encryption, including FreeDV, so we're all familiar with FreeDV, MELPE, and NATO standards. Satellite communication has real-time satellite tracking with TLE support for military and amateur radio satellites. So there's an ATIS weather integration, automatic weather data integration with Piper TDS for realistic ATIS generation. So that's text-to-speech from Piper. And yeah, it's just they do make a note in the GitHub page, which I have linked in the show notes, that it is not a simple plug and play system. They expect that most people for a basic setup and installation will take 2 to 3 hours, and to configure the system in an advanced way could take you into the week time frame. So this is a very complex system for Mumble. But I was kind of intrigued with all the capabilities and the thought process behind this. And yeah, these people that do these fancy flight simulators, maybe should just like go flying for real, right? They want real radio and everything else. Holy cow. This looks pretty cool. But yeah, it's called FGCOM-Mumble. So check it out.
Well, FGCOM-Mumble is like you're getting a pilot license. I will say that.
Yeah, probably.
All right, very good. So with that, we'll move into Linux in the Ham Shack, and this topic is really neither, although it is probably running on Linux, and it is not open source, at least not yet. I did see some Reddit threads from the author saying that might be up for consideration, but it is a kind of cool project that aggregates real-time propagation data into a website that you can use for free. It's called DXLook, and it has introduced a new feature, personalized band conditions. So those are those based on your location. The HF propagation application DXLook has been used by amateur radio operators worldwide, and it's introduced a new feature, personalized band conditions. This update enhances how operators understand HF propagation, tailoring band conditions estimates to each user's specific grid location, rather than relying solely on global indices such as SFI, A-index, DXLook now provides location-aware predictions that consider geographic position, local time, and atmospheric factors. Rodrigo Vasquez, creator of DXLook, says global space weather numbers are valuable, but what matters most to operators is what's happening right now at their own QTH. Personalized band conditions bridge that gap, end quote. The new system recognizes that propagation can differ greatly between regions. For example, auroral absorption at high latitudes, heavy static noise in tropical zones, or nighttime D-layer changes at mid-latitudes. By factoring in these local influences, DXLook offers more relevant, real-world guidance for operators planning contacts. The feature is now available on dxlook.com and integrates seamlessly with the existing band condition widget. So I found this story on Amateur Radio Daily, and I've also got a link to DXLook, which is just dxlook.com, as we've already said, which will be in the show notes. I took a look at it. It's pretty cool. It's got a nice mapping feature. It does show you interesting propagation features. It does give you the indices as well, those globally referenced and your local ones. And it also is being programmed to work with POTA. So for all the POTA nuts out there, you can use DXLook to find your contacts as well, and also find out if you're likely to make that contact with those POTA ops. So there you go. I see you chatting.
Yeah.
User
Steve's
Steve's touting the company he works for again. So
he has to have like a, has to have a disclaimer every time he posts something about Grafana.
Like you and the BSA. So.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. Oh, we don't make any money off of it until you have a closed source license and you force them all to pay for it. Like everybody else has done. Pull out the rug.
Yeah. Dealing with licensing. But speaking of licensing, I wanted to go back to our last deep dive about ArcOS Linux.
Yeah.
I did reference a couple of things that were sort of problematic for me in our discussion. And then I went to the ArcOS Linux YouTube and watched the latest video on the Crater Lake distribution release. And a lot of the things that I had issues with were addressed in there. So I would recommend checking out that video because some of the things like not retaining the Wi-Fi information and stuff like that, the persistent issues are addressed in there and how to deal with them, and sort of a little bit more on the philosophy of how ArcOS Linux works. So I would definitely check that out. I'll put a link to it in the show notes just so people are aware that the YouTube video is there, and it does answer many questions.
Does it talk about the validity of changing all the icons?
It does not. It references the changed icons and shows you that if you put them in the taskbar, for example, in your Cinnamon environment, those will persist as well. So even though it's a live bootable USB stick, a lot of the things that you tweak and tune will persist. You just have to, in some cases, tell the system that you want those things to persist before they do.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, so it's a good video. It's worth a watch. I think it's only like 30 minutes long, so if you watch it at double speed, you're in and out quick. So, all right, with that, we're down to the end of our stories for tonight, so let's move on to some announcements and feedback. And we did get some feedback via Mastodon over the last couple of days. The first one, well, actually both of them came from Begarfoot. So, one was a comment on episode number 595. And he said, it was a great episode. Very curious about the Skyroof project. I'll have to look more into it. Yeah, it's a pretty cool project. And Bill is in league with the AI devil, trying to make an interesting alteration, let's say, to the Skyroof project. We'll see how that plays out. I'm not going to say any more about it now because it's very involved. But it's going to be interesting to see if you actually get it to work. So
yes, we'll see. Well, it's TBD.
Yep. And then also he gave us a ping in reference to a quote from Dan, KB6NU. Dan over on Mastodon said, I'm thinking of converting my ham radio computer to Linux. Well, what took you so long, Dan? Now that Windows 10 is no longer being supported. And boy, did we hear that at Hamvention and like forever after. Do any of you have a Linux computer powering your ham station? Well, duh. If so, what distro and what, if any, logging software are you using? That was Dan's comment. And in reply, Barfoot said, KB6NU, really, you can't go wrong with any Debian-based distribution. I second that notion. Linux is generally the easiest to learn and what I run, but any of them will work. Also, paging LHS podcast. So there you go, Dan. Just come talk to us. We'll tell you what to do.
Yes, exactly.
We'll get you
give you all the wrong advice.
Well, that's all the feedback we have. We do have the announcements, the usual ones. They are that if you can help support the show out financially via Patreon, PayPal, buying some merch, or hooking up over on YouTube, we would appreciate that. YouTube is not helping us out financially yet, but maybe with enough time and enough views, that will happen. And, of course, if you aren't blocking the little ad banner on the right-hand side of the webpage, you can click on those, and maybe someday we will get the ad revenue from that, because we've been real close for a long time now, but people just don't click ads. So I totally get it. But that doesn't cost you anything, and if we get enough clicks in the next little while, we'll actually make some money off of it. So it goes right in the bank and helps us get out to Hamvention and all the things like that. And with that, we're down to the new subscriber, supporters, and live participants, and there weren't that many this time around. We on Mastodon, P. Welch, Kementari, and Namonaki. Over on Discord, we had Oliver, Steve D, N1YKT, Rune, and KG4VDK. And just acknowledgement, KG4VDK is the author of ArcOS Linux. So I expect to hear commentary from him before long. Over on Blue Sky, we were joined by Katrina, and despite the fact that it's a woman and, a social media account, I checked it out, and she is very into technology and ham radio and all kinds of other stuff. So totally valid, not like Twitter, where all of the accounts are bogus. So
all bots, right?
Yeah, exactly. Nobody joined us on the mailing list. And then tonight in the live chat, we had Steve, KJ5T, Don, KB2YSI, Mike, K6GTE, and Corey, KR4EMG. Thanks, everybody, for listening to the show. And Don in the chat says, I mentioned the podcast to Dan on the HRWB podcast Discord as well. Ham Radio Workbench. I had to think about that while I was parsing it. So, yeah, well, hopefully either HRWB or us or something can help Dan out. We'll get him switched over to Linux, and he'll enjoy it forever after. And with that, we've come down to the end of the show. We want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight, whether you're listening after the fact or we're here as part of our live show. The local participants, we appreciate everybody, and we also especially appreciate those who donate to the program and help keep the lights on here. And we'll go ahead and let you get back to whatever it was you were doing, and we hope you'll check us out in a week for the next episode, which will be a weekender. And in the meantime, have a good one, and we'll wrap it up here on episode number 598 of Linux in the Ham Shack. For the On Assignment Cheryl, W5MOO, I'm Russ, K5TUX.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD73.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a community-sponsored podcast. Live recordings are Sunday nights at 8 o'clock Central Time. Our homepage can be found at lhspodcast.info. You can support the podcast via Patreon at patreon.com/LHS We're also on Discord, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Mastodon. Contact us via email at info@lhspodcast.info or via voicemail at 190954777469. That's 1909 LHS Show. We also have merch. So until next we meet, remember to always heed your hedonism.